So for the practice problem here, we're going to walk you through setting up a database and a table and the connection string for the assignment for this week. So we'll get everything set up so that you're ready to go with the assignment. So we're going to start a new web project here. New project and go under web. Do an empty web project. I'm just going to go 3049 unit 4, give it some name and create that. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is create a database. We're going to do that as a local file within this. So I'm going to right click on here, or else go to project and do add new items. Either way, I'm going to get to the add new items option. I should see under Visual C# a data option, and I don't want the compact one, I just want the regular database. So it should be an MDF file. And I'm just going to call this, we're going to make a customer database. So I'm just going to call this customer.mdf. It's going to want to put it in the app data folder, create a folder for that. I can just say yes and just wait a sec and it should create that. We're going to then create a table in here called cust, C-U-S-T for customer, and just store basic customer information. Okay, so now I have the app data now has been created and the customer MDF. If I double click on that, it'll open it up in the Server Explorer view, Server Explorer here. And there's tables here. I'm going to add a new table. So I've opened up my customer MDF file. After opening up here, I'm going to add a new table. It's starting to create the table here, create table, and then the table name. I'm going to make sure I give this, change the table name here. I'm just going to call it CUST, cust, short for customer. And I'm going to let it load up, and I'm going to create some fields in here. We're just going to create a couple basic fields first. For the ID field, I'm just going to change this to customer ID, and I'm going to make sure I want this auto numbered so it automatically does it. So I'm going to make sure I have it click, go under properties and find the identity specification, specify this is true, and I think I'll also want to have it start, let's have it start at 1,000. So the first customer number will be 1,000 and 1,001 and that sort of stuff. Now I'm just going to add a couple other fields here, customer name, customer street, and I'm not going to worry too much about the details. I basically just want to set this up. So I want the city, state, and zip. You know, in a real application, I'd have, you know, two different fields for the street address in case it was over 2 streets. I'd probably actually have customers with multiple address types to store the different addresses and things like that. But I'm not going to worry about that. We're just going to make a simple table here. I'm going to change most of these types to bar, car, 50. I'm just going to click on that and copy that over these. And give myself a little bit more room here so I can see. And I can leave these all nulls. I'm going to do a couple changes. I'm going to change the state so it only requires 2 characters, and the zip I'm going to limit to 10 characters. So everything else will be varchar. And again, I'm not even going to worry about if that's going to be long enough for a street address, which really not, possibly. But I'm just going to list those all. So there's my database. I'm going to check, you know, create table, and then the customer name is right here. Cust is a customer name. Otherwise, your table will be called table. So just be aware if you didn't change the name, you'll create a table called table. And here's my fields I'm creating. So now I have to actually run this, hit update. It prepares this script, hit update database, hit that button, and it should create the table. It says creating the table. I have a little checkbox here. I don't see it over here until I hit the refresh button, hit refresh, and here's my customer table. Okay, so I'm going to close this query. So I have my customer table. Again, make sure you hit this refresh button or right click and choose refresh. Now with this customer table, I can add some new data. I'm going to show table data. I'm just going to enter a couple sample names with a couple different cities, and we'll actually create a database for this. And one of the things we're going to be doing is working on the zip code state stuff. So what we want to be able to do is have the user enter a zip code like 55811 and have the city and state automatically pop up. Generally, you can map zip codes to a specific city and state. Some cities like Duluth will have multiple zip codes, but every zip code should be able to map to one city. It's not always that case, sometimes with unofficial cities and stuff like that, but from the post office point of view, that's pretty clear. Okay, so let's do a couple more. I'm going to do Duluth, Minnesota, 55803. And again, we'll look at how we can add more data with a form. And so next part of this is we're going to create a form which will let us add data to this table. Okay, so I'm going to close out this table. In fact, I'm going to close out the Server Explorer for now. Okay, so I've got my app data and there's a customer MDF there. Now I'm going to create a new form for my website. Go up to Project, New Item, go back under Web and on the data. And let's see what's going on. Let me just take a break. Yes, I forgot add new form. Depends on what you click. So I have to make sure you're not clicked on app data, but on the project itself. When you do this project, add new item or right click over here. So make sure you have the project selected on that bar over here. And then I can go and do project add new item. But I forgot this is relative to what item you have clicked over here. So now I can go into web and do a web form. I'm just going to leave web form 1. That's fine. I could name it customer form. That doesn't really matter. Okay, here's my web form. So I'm going to enter some text here. Add a customer. This will be my form to add a customer. And I'm going to have the customer name, colon. I'm going to just type in my some text here, and then I'm going to add some text boxes to this after I'm done. So customer name, customer I'm just going to say street, and this time I'm going to put zip first and then city and then state, and then often we do it the other way around, but this time I want city zip first, because one of our hopes is that we'll be able to fill in the zip and the other ones will come in automatically. Okay, now I'm going to grab my toolbox up here. Where's my toolbox if that's been hidden? And again, so I'm going to put in some text fields here. Now I could have put labels in here for all these things, but I'm not going to be modifying these in code. So as long as I'm not modifying these code, I don't need ASP labels here. I can just type in HTML text for those. But you can drop in labels if you want. But I'm just going to leave those, and I'm just going to drop in text boxes here. And again, we're not worrying about formatting or layout or stuff. This isn't a web design class, so there's lots of ways to better format this website with tables and layouts and all that sort of stuff. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to work on the programming. So it's not going to be the prettiest website ever, but it's going to work real well. Okay, I'm just going to make sure my text boxes are labeled. I'm going to take txt name for the customer name, txt street, and then txt zip. So again, I'm just going to change the names of each of my text boxes here and remember what they are, so I can use them in my code. Okay, I'm going to add a couple more things here. I'm going to add a button to add a new customer. So for the button, I'm going to say add customer. And I'm going to name it something like BTN add. I'm also going to want a little status display. So this is where I am actually going to use the label. I'm just going to drag a label down like we've seen in the examples. I'm going to leave the text blank to start with, and this is where I'll just display the results of our queries. So I'm just going to call this LBL results. It'll just be a little status display I can use as I'm working. I think I'm going to make this text a little bigger, so I'm going to change it to a heading there, add customer. Okay. I don't need the customer ID in here because I'm just adding this, and this is that'll be automatically created. So here's my basic field, and now we're going to program it so we add a customer. We're filling all these fields and add a customer. And then for the assignment, we're going to have you add this. So if they fill in the zip code, we can go to the database, hopefully, and grab the city and state from that. Okay, but first, let's get the connection string all set up and things, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go into double-click on the Add button. So we're going to add a customer. So I'm going to grab some code to put in here. And a good place to look is the examples that we worked through before. The author manager has a button for adding customers, so I'm going to base this code off of that. So I'm going to paste in some information to insert SQL into our database. So I'm going to declare a string called insert SQL, and I'm going to start creating that string. I'm going to initially, so to add a customer, I have to say insert into and the name of the table, and I name my table cust. And then I'm going to also add to this, so do a plus equals to concatenate onto this insert into customers. I'm going to specify all the SQL fields. So there's lots of just quick tutorials. If you just Google SQL insert or insert into, you'll get some good tutorials if you don't remember your SQL, like W3 Schools has one. So the format is insert into and then the table name, and then let's do it this way: insert into the table name, and then we specify in parentheses all the column names, and then we say values, and all the values we're going to insert. So here they actually have an example similar to ours: insert into customer, that's the name of the table, and then parenthesis, and then here's each of the customer fields, parenthesis, and then values, and then here are all the values. Now rather than putting these values in quotes, we'll put parameters there and replace those parameters with the actual values later on. So all these will be parameterized, but that's the general layout. And again, there are lots of good examples of this insert into a different table name, the field names, values, and then the actual values. So feel free to look up this SQL stuff to remind yourself. So we're going to insert into customer, and then we're starting our parenthesis. We're listing out all the customer names here and ending the parenthesis. And then we're specifying the values. And again, I could, right now if it's multiple lines, I could change this so this is all on one line or 2 lines. So insert into. So depends on how long you want your lines. When you want to just add a concatenation. So right now it says insert into cust, and then parenthesis each of the customer fields. And again, I might want to go back to the SQL Server Explorer or the Server Explorer. Make sure I look at customer. Make sure I look at what all the actual names are. These spellings here: cust name, cust street, and the capitalization. They have to be matching what I'm here, cust name, cust street, cust zip, with exact capitalizations. And then these are the parameter names. The values are just going to be parameters. They just any variable name I want with an @ before it, and we'll reuse those in just a sec. So this is creating my SQL command. Now I have to create a connection to execute that SQL. So I have to declare an SQL connection object, and so I just call it generate con and new SQL connection, and then to specify a connection string. So let's talk about that in just a sec. And then I need an SQL command. I'm going to call mine, like we had before, CMD, and do a new command. And here I combine my connection with my SQL string up here. So this will be ready to run this SQL against this connection. Okay, let's try to clear things up. I've got, let's talk about the connection string first. So we've got to create a connection string. So up above here, inside our class, but we might use this in a number of different methods. So I'm going to put in a connection string up here, private string, connection string, and I'm going to use the Web Configuration Manager and connection strings. Oops, I'll move things around. Okay, Web Configuration Manager, that connection string. So this is going to grab the connection string from this web config file, so we better go put it in there. I have to specify a name for it, and then I just say connection string. So again, this is, we've seen this before. This is what we always use to grab this connection string from the web config file. Now I've got some issues. Web config and SQL connects are not found here, so I have to make sure I add some usings here. So I can either just find the usings I've used before and paste them here. That'll get rid of those errors. Or when these errors are here, you can actually just click on these, right click, and let's see, resolve, and choose this one, and it'll stick up the using you need up there. So again, right click under resolve and say that, and it'll put up the usings you want up at the top here. So it added system.data.sql client and system.web configuration. So this is the web configuration and client. So that's a quick way to get rid of or add the usings you need, is to right click and choose that resolve option. Okay, now let's add the connection string to our web config file. So I'm going to open up web config, give myself some room inside the configuration file. And so we're going to, inside configurations, we're going to add a connection strings tag and an end connection strings tag. And inside that, we're going to add some other connection strings. So it's again a tag add and then space name equals, and then whatever we're going to call it. In this case, I'm going to call it CUST cust, and in space, and then connection string. And again, here we're always using lowercase except for the start of the first word or the word string, so it'll be connection uppercase S strings, and equals, and then the actual connection string itself here, and then some quotes. Part of the connection string will be the location of the database, and also what kind of security we'll be using. So let's look at one way of generating this connection string here. So one way is to look at the actual database itself. So if I've got my database over here, I can open up my customer database. Here it is in my Server Explorer. With it open, there's actually a connection string I can use here. So I can just highlight that connection string and copy it, close this up, and then go in here I'm going to use this as my customer2 data string, because I'm not actually going to use this connection string. I'm just going to show you it, and you can use it to start with. Okay, so I've got connection, I've got it all ready to go. Add name equals cust2 connection string, and I just have it in quotes, and I have that backslash greater than sign at the end. So inside that quotes, I'm going to then paste that connection string I just grabbed. Now, one of the problems with those connection strings is they have quotes inside of them, and I already have quotes for my connection string. So I have to go through. So I started the quotes here, and here I'm going to switch that internal quote, double quote, to a single quote, and same here, this double quote to a single quote. So then connection string should be in red, and then the rest should be all in blue. There's the start of the double quotes all the way over here, and there's the end of the double quotes. So I can use that connection string cust2. One of the problems with that, though, is that it is specific to my machine and where I have everything installed, so it has a full path to my machine. And so, for example, if I were to create this and give it the project to you, like I'm doing, this wouldn't work on most likely on your machine, because you're probably logged into a different user and have different folder structures possibly. So to get a little bit around this, we can create a smaller connection string, and this is what I'm going to show you here. Add a name, and I'm just going to call it cust, and then connection string equals the data source is just going to be the local database, and in my case it's v11.0. and again, if I go under SQL Explorer, I actually have two local databases. I have one called localDB / projects and localDB / v11.0. So again, whatever your local database server is called, that's what you want to have here. So you'll see I've got this local database / v11.0. So that's the one I want, is the second one here. And you're likely just to have one of those. Okay, so there's my database. And then attached file name. This is the file I'm going to grab. And here, rather than specifying the whole path, I can use a vertical line and say data dictionary and another vertical line. And that'll substitute in this app data folder. And that's one of the reasons why we want our database inside app data, because there's this nice shortcut to the app database, the app data folder. So I can just say vertical data dictionary, vertical line, and then the name of my MDF file, customer.mdf. Okay, so that's a much abbreviated connection string, and the only other thing I need to do is say integrated security equals true. And again, what you may want to look at is that's very similar to this database. The only thing I've done here is then I've copied the connection string from that other database. This long path name I have just deleted up to and including the app data subfolder, and just replace that with this vertical line data dictionary vertical line. Okay, so somehow or another you want to get a connection string declared here. And I'm often copying and pasting connection strings from one project to the other once I start getting them to work, and modifying them over here. Okay, so I've got my connection string, saving that. Over here in my program, I'm going to make sure I call webconfig.connectionstrings and reference cust. So that it'll grab this connection string up here, cust, and that label, you'll grab that same thing. So my connection string's good. So back to this. I've got my SQL connect here, SQL connect connection string, and I'm doing my command here. So next, I can work with my parameters. So I have 5 parameters here: customer name, street, zip, city, and state. I'm going to substitute text from text boxes into those. So I say cmd, the name of my command here that I declared, dot parameters dot add with values, and then I specify. So here I want the customer name. I said at cust name. I'm going to use that same tag here, and then I'm going to grab the customer name text field. So again, I'm going to go out to my text box, make sure I remember what I called it, txt name, and say txt name dot text to grab the text field from that. And I'm going to do that for the street, the city, the zip, and all 5 things. So I have to match up each of these parameters that I created here with the correct form. So here it's txt zip, and here I called it txt cust zip, so I have to say cust zip and then txt zip. Now the order in which I add the parameters doesn't matter. What matters is that the order up here, whatever order I list the fields in, the parameters here have to match that. So I said name, and the first parameter is name, street, street, zip, zip, city, city, state, state. So this ordering does matter. The ordering of the parameters down here, so notice I added the cust zip field before the city and state. That doesn't matter down here. Okay, now that I've got my SQL statement all working, I'm going to actually run this. And again, I've just grabbed some code and modified it from our earlier example. I'm just going to have a little variable added to keep track of how many records I add. I should just add one. I'm going to start a try block. I'm going to open my connection. So here's my con.open. And then I'm going to use the command I created, .execute non-query. And that will return the number of records added. So that's my little variable added here. And then I'm just going to, my results, LBL results is this little result string out here. I'm going to say LBL results.text equals, I'm going to convert the number of added, so I'm going to say one record added or inserted. I'm going to catch the error if there are any errors and flag those, and then finally I'm going to close the connection down here. So I should be able to run this and add fields to my database. So let's save this, run this, and see how it works. I see I have a problem, one of my address fields. Street. Yeah. Okay, see if I get all my names correct. That looks better. Now we'll try to run this. So I should be able to add a customer to my database. So I can fill in some information in the database here and hit add customer. It should say one record inserted. If I have my connection string all working, if not, I'll have some problems here and I'll have to redo my connection string. But if everything working, it should say one record added. I should be able to go back in here and stop this. And I should be able to go view my either SQL Server or Server Explorer, somehow get to my customer database and show the table data. And I should see my new record customer 1002 was added to the database. So I do see it worked here. So that's basically what we want to do. For this, we'll record a little bit more to help you get ready for the assignment, explain what the assignment is for this week.